I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated. I don't know how else to say. We need to win a game. I don't have much to say. I'm going to get myself in trouble. So.
He's going to hand the ball off. He's being brought out mid at bat. That is eyebrow raising. Could that affect him at the plate as well?
The 2025 Los Angeles Dodgers on paper are one of the best baseball teams of all time. They have Freddie Freeman and Clayton Kershaw, so not so shockingly, they have the largest total payroll of nearly the entire MLB. So why are the Dodgers not only the second best team in the National League, but almost about to be the second best team in their own division? What went wrong for the Dodgers? How did they get here? Do they still have a super team? But more importantly, how can the Dodgers turn this thing around? So before we get into it, we have a great giveaway going on. We're trying to get to 25k subs. If you're subscribed with notifications on, you're entered into a raffle to get an MLB official jersey. Just leave a comment down below on what kind of jersey you would like to get. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. Before we talk about how the Dodgers revolutionized spending in baseball, we need to go back nearly a decade and a half to 2012. Why? Well, this was when the Los Angeles Dodgers were sold to Guggenheim Baseball Management. While this seems like a shell company owned by several billionaires to own the Los Angeles Dodgers, which don't get me wrong, it totally is, Mark Walter, who owns a quarter of the company, is the most hands-on. But to say he completely changed Dodgers history would be an understatement. In 2011, the Los Angeles Dodgers payroll was middle of the pack. Nothing crazy, nothing bad. But by 2014, everything had entirely changed. The Los Angeles Dodgers led all of baseball in payroll by $30 million. Not only did they lead MLB in payroll by a wide margin, their payroll from 2011 to 2014 increased by nearly $130 million. These new owners meant business. In fact, from 2013 onward, the Dodgers have made the playoffs every single season. And as if to one-up themselves, they've also won the NL West 11 times since then as well. This team is competitive year in and year out. But guess what drove all of it? Money. And don't get me wrong, the Dodgers have a top-notch training facility, one of the best farm systems in all of baseball, their pitching lab is insane, and they rehabilitate veterans better than anybody. But let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't the only reason the Dodgers were so dominant in the National League during the Guggenheim era. A lot of that success has to do with a little something called money.
Mookie Betts is close to signing a mega extension with the Dodgers.
The Dodgers adding to their already loaded lineup overnight by agreeing to a deal with free agent Freddie Freeman.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to the LA Dodgers.
Heading into the 2020s decade, the Los Angeles Dodgers spending started to pay off big time. After trading for and extending Mookie Betts to a $365 million contract, the Dodgers would go on to win the World Series in 2020. A few years after that, they handed Freddie Freeman a $162 million bag. And just because they didn't win the World Series right away, that didn't mean that they weren't going to go ahead and completely break the sport.
Shohei Ohtani's $700 million contract calls for him to be paid only $2 million a year for the next 10 seasons, with $680 million deferred until the end of the deal.
The Shohei Ohtani contract is one of the most interesting contracts in all of pro sports. So in case you don't know what deferred money is, basically a team can use deferred money to pay a player later instead of paying them entirely up front. This allows teams to manipulate payroll, and in the case of Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers, they weren't just manipulating payroll, they destroyed it. Bobby Bonilla is one of the most famous recipients of deferred money, and he receives just $1 million every year in deferred money till this day. After Shohei Ohtani's contract is up in a decade, he'll earn $68 million a year. So the reason this is so important is because technically, for the next 10 years, Ohtani is only getting paid $2 million a year. This allows the Dodgers to go out and sign talent around Ohtani, which is exactly what they did by signing Teoscar Hernandez that same offseason. In 2024, the Dodgers proved what a lot of baseball fans know all too well, that money can buy you championships. Not only did they dominate the Yankees in the World Series, but Ohtani won MVP, and Freddie Freeman's contract was looking better and better by the season. If the Dodgers weren't on cloud 9 after winning their second World Series in 5 years, they were about to be after that offseason. This most recent offseason, the Dodgers went all out. They signed Roki Sasaki, Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Yesung Kim, Michael Conforto, and oh yeah, they also gave a reliever 3/4 of $100 million. They were throwing money around like it was nothing, and it was all thanks to Shohei Ohtani's deferred money. He's literally literally giving the Dodgers $68 million a year to spend on making the team better. And through the beginning of July, that's exactly what was happening. On July 1st, the Dodgers had the best record in all of baseball. Shohei Ohtani was once again pitching off a mound, and it seemed like the defending World Series champions were due to repeat once again, and by a mile at that. But then something insane happened. From July 4th to July 21st, the Los Angeles Dodgers won 2 games. Not 2 series, 2 games. While this was a special period of time for the Dodgers because Clayton Kershaw had just reached the 3,000th strikeout of his career, it still wasn't enough to stave off his frustrations with the team.
I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated. Yeah, I don't know how else to say. We need to win a game. I don't have much to say. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
While the Dodgers did manage to rebound after that terrible stretch, they're not even close to the same team they were just a few months ago. The San Diego Padres are dangerously close in the NL West, and they went all out this deadline as well. The Brewers are by far and away the best team in the National League, and their longest contract is looking like one of the worst deals in the entire MLB. So how did the 2025 Dodgers go from dominant to downright terrible? Every Dodgers fan knows the answer to that question, and the answer is injuries. Over the course of the season, the Dodgers literally have had hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts on the injured list. Just to name a few, Blake Snell and his $182 million deal landed on the IL. Tyler Glasnow and his newly inked $136 million contract, he served a long IL stint. Tanner Scott's insane $72 million reliever deal, well, he of course also was on the IL. Roki Sasaki, the Japanese prodigy, season-ending Tommy John surgery. Basically, what I'm getting at is that the Dodgers have entire teams' payrolls on the injured list. But what about the players that are actually playing? Well, let's just look at Mookie Betts. Betts still has over a half a decade left on his mega contract, and it looks like he's already starting to decline severely. Betts currently has an OPS under 700. His OBP is flirting with 300, and he just looks awful at the plate. Now, granted, he did start the season with a weird illness that caused him to lose a ton of weight, and I do think that's part of it, but still, the Dodgers need better production at the 2-hole if they're going to have any hopes of repeating. Everything that's going wrong for the Showtime's Dodgers is going wrong, and at this rate, it's looking like the Dodgers are pretenders rather than contenders. The Dodgers can spend all of the money they'd like, but it doesn't guarantee them a World Series championship. The game is played on the diamond, not the spreadsheets. But what if I told you that's entirely wrong? The Dodgers, no matter what, will be making the playoffs in 2025. By that time, Blake Snell and Tanner Scott will be back. Shohei Ohtani will be his prime self, and Tyler Glasnow will be getting into midseason form. Not to mention the fact that I'm sure Mookie Betts will be better by then. The Dodgers' struggles right now are fooling nobody. The Los Angeles Dodgers are still one of the biggest threats in the National League. Shohei Ohtani is still the heavy favorite to win NL MVP. Freddie Freeman is one of the best first basemen in the NL, and Andy Pages has blossomed into a superstar. I don't care how much talent is on the injured list. If they're back by the playoffs, the Dodgers will be just fine. Do the Dodgers have solid homegrown players? Definitely. Will Smith, Clayton Kershaw, Andy Pages, and Dalton Rushing are excellent players, but they're not Freddie Freeman. They're not Max Muncy or Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and they're definitely not Shohei Ohtani. Let's face it, the Dodgers bought their biggest stars just like the Yankees did during their dynasty. But here's the most shocking twist. What if I told you the Dodgers handing out all of this money isn't as insane as you think? Maybe instead of blaming the Dodgers for ruining baseball, we should blame MLB for ruining baseball. Now, I know what you might be thinking. The Dodgers have destroyed baseball. They've manipulated the salary cap with heavy deferrals on Ohtani's contract, and with the open money, they've built a super team. And I see where you're coming from, trust me. But don't blame the Dodgers. Blame MLB instead. Technically, what the Dodgers did was 100% allowed and legal. In fact, like I've mentioned, deferred money has been around forever, and MLBPA have known a lot about it since the Bobby Bonilla incident decades ago. You're telling me they could have never envisioned a scenario like this? Seriously? If MLB wanted to restrict deferred money, they would have done it years ago. Also, I want to point out that in theory, the Dodgers spending over the salary tax every season should benefit the small market owners, because every year the Dodgers will pay more and more every season in tax, and that money will be redistributed to small market owners through MLB's revenue sharing program. So in theory, those owners will use that money on player salary, but in practice, they're not doing that at all. In fact, this and the salary cap are the two biggest components of MLB's newest CBA. And if you want to break down on the potential 2027 MLB lockout, we made a whole video on it. Check it out. I'll put it on the end screen. But if you want a brief summary summary, just blame MLB for not being more strict about what other teams do with their money, not the Dodgers. Keep in mind, the Dodgers spending money is nothing new. The only thing that's changed is how they spend the money and how they choose to keep it on the books. Ever since the Guggenheim Baseball Management Company bought the Dodgers, they've been doing one thing consistently for the last decade and a half, and that's be top 5 in payroll. So did the Dodgers ruin baseball? No. But did they point out a flawed aspect of the sport? Absolutely. Aside from the morality of an entire sport, I think the next 10 years look amazing for the Dodgers. Not only do they have 2 World Series titles in the last 5 years, they also have a lot of their talent either entering their prime right now or at the end of their prime. The Dodgers World Series window is wide open, and honestly, I don't see it closing anytime soon. If I had to guess, the Los Angeles Dodgers will probably win 1 or 2 more titles over the next 10 years, and the Ohtani-led Dodgers of the 2020s will be known as one of the best baseball dynasties of all time. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and as a Yankee fan, I would definitely like to. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the Padres are gonna kick out the Dodgers from the playoffs this year. Maybe you think that the Dodgers did ruin baseball, and it is their fault that the sport isn't competitive, or maybe you think that the Dodgers won't be anything special this season. But most importantly, I want to know whether or not you think the Dodgers made a massive mistake with all of these contracts, or if maybe they've started a massive trend. Let me know in the comments below. That's all for today, and I'll see you guys on the next one.